Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We are so delighted to welcome our guest speaker, Nana Bonsu. We are pleased to have you here this wonderful Monday afternoon. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jamie Seward. I am an Associate Director of Lifelong Learning with the Office of Alumni Relations here at Johns Hopkins University. And before we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsor, the Finance Affinity. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, Nana Bonsu, class of 2010 from the Carey Business School. He is an expert on building business value and developing a plan for success using a systemic approach for measuring and improving the value of a business. More than that, he is a skilled facilitator who helps business owners enable their business to thrive without them, thus enabling them to either regain control of their lives or exit their business. He's an advisor who specializes in helping business owners build great companies, not just a big company. He is on a mission to shift the balance of power in favor of small and mid-sized business owners as they approach their transition. He hosts a popular weekly podcast show that brings together a network of professional advisors and experts to discuss the pressing needs of business owners. In addition, he belongs to a community of advisors who are among the world's leading thinkers on building company value. So we are delighted to have you here. And with that, I will turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon or morning, in case you're behind us. The topic for today is Scale Down to Scale Up. It's about, most of this is essentially targeting small business to mid-sized business owners. A lot of the concepts are still applicable to big businesses. It's just that, the bigger the business, the less the owners involved. It becomes more the CEO and big leadership team. And so let's talk about the business owner. A lot of times the business owners has aspiration is about personal freedom and financial independence. And to achieve this calling of self-determination, they tend to either create or buy a business to where they can essentially call their own shots. And so they build a business or they create a business to achieve this. And we know that a business, the lifeblood of any business is cash. Without cash, the business simply dies. So cash is like oxygen, as everybody knows. I heard the phrase, cash is king. Now, the question is what type of business, right? Because in order for you to generate the sustainable business, you need to be able to sell something, i.e. a product or a service. But what kind of product or service do you need to create? Not all products and services are created equal. And so that is the purpose of today's conversation, which is that you want to build a business that grows, but what kind of growth? Because not all growth are created equal. So let's go ahead and dive into it a little bit more. I always like to start with talking about this concept of value, because that looking at the enterprise value of a business helps provide better context around what decision-making and what strategy for a business makes the most sense. There are a variety of ways of valuing a business, but three main ones tend to come to light. One is the intrinsic value or the discounted cash flow model, where you look at the future cash flows for a certain period of time in the future, whether it's 5 years or whether it's perpetuity, and then you discount it back based on some risk factors, like whether it's internal, like owner dependency, or whether it's external, like interest rate risk. You use those things to factor into what the discount rate is. The second form of valuation, which I have on here, is the market approach, where you look at the relative value of a business based on certain comparable businesses within the industry, based on past transactions, how businesses have sold within the industry, how they've been evaluated, discounting for certain factors. And then the third one is the liquidation factor, where you look at how much it's going to cost to replace your business if you were to lose all the assets. Primarily, we tend to focus on the first two, the discounted cash flow model and the market valuation model. So if we look at the market approach, which tends to be more prevalent out there in the industry, it's just a simple calculation. You look at your pre-tax profit, and then you multiply it by this concept of the multiple, which is essentially the factor by which your business is valued based on its comparables in the industry. And three main, and so if you look at a, say, $1 million business that makes $200,000 profit, and based on the assessment and evaluation is judged to have a multiple of 3, it could be a multiple of 4, it could be a multiple of 2, right? Whatever that multiple is, it depends on the industry and among other things, as I mentioned. Then your value then becomes just 3 times 200,000, and then your value, your business is valued at $200,000. And so the key thing is the multiple. How do we influence the multiple, right? 3 main things tend to come in: the growth of your business, how much risk your business has, and also your cash flow. Right? These 3 come into play even if you're using the discounting cash flow model or the market valuation model. So if we're going to grow, the smart approach to growing will be growing in such a way that you minimize risk while at the same time increasing your cash flow. So when we talk about not all growths are created equal, we don't want to be growing our business while at the same time increasing our risk, right? So for instance, if you decide to, there is an opportunity in some war-torn country and you decide to expand your business over there because there's an opportunity, guess what? You are exposing your business to significant risk. So that's basically what we're talking about in terms of scaling down to scale up, which is that you find a way to balance the growth with the risk reduction and the cash flow increase. There are a couple of environmental factors as we focus on business owners and what is top of mind for them. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, or NFIB, they do a monthly sentiment survey of small business owners. And they ask them one of the survey questions is, what is the single most important problem that they face? And these are the top 10. And I highlight a couple of them that tend to be, in my view, within the control of the business owner. Some of the others are more like under government control, like inflation and taxes and stuff like that. But things like poor sales and labor costs and labor quality and competition from large businesses, those are within your control. And so the question is, how do you grow your business in such a way that you minimize risk and increase cash flow? And the reason why these factors need to always be put in mind as you embark on a growth strategy is because there are some other key factors in place that could bring about risk if you grow too fast without considering these are the factors that impact value. One of them is this question of tight labor market. 49% of business owners that were surveyed in the NFIB survey report for December, just this past December, 49% are not able to fill their openings with qualified candidates. So if you grow too fast and you don't have the candidates to support that growth, guess what? You are going to end up not meeting delivery expectations, and then that's going to then stagnate your growth. Then you have 36% that also have mentioned the biggest problem being sales and inventory, the supply chain disruptions. We know the last 2 years with the pandemic, there's been a lot of global supply chain disruptions. So, if you grow too fast, but you don't have the supplies or the raw materials to be able to generate it, then, you can't meet demand. And therefore, you're going to disappoint customers, which could then affect future revenues and cash flow. And then 22% are worried about inflation. The more your cash, the cost it takes to generate your raw materials go up, it affects your margins, and therefore, it affects the value of your business. And there are just a couple of, there's always, some, business problems out there, but I'm just going to pick up on maybe 4, and then we're going to peel the onions a little bit. And what we found is that a lot of times they come down to one particular thing related to whether you have too many products to sell, and why we are proposing that you rationalize by scaling down. We talked about the rising costs being one of the big problems that small business owners mentioned in the NFIB survey, for instance, right? We talk about owner dependency and how it increases the risk if a lot of the business is dependent on the owner being around. Then what if something happens to the owner? What if the owner can't be available, right? So that introduces risk, and anytime risk goes up, your value, the value of your business goes down. Because you remember, the perfect business is having high growth, low risk, high or positive cash flow. If you have negative cash flow, you diminish the value of your business. Cash is the lifeblood of any business, and there's only so much runway you have if you continue to generate negative cash flow, because cash is getting sucked into the business. And then if you are not able to meet expectations and therefore low customer satisfaction, you're not likely to recommend your business, and which then affects the predictability of your future revenue and therefore the value of your business. And a lot of times, these all tend to come down to selling too many products and services. So the question is, what do we do about it? Now, the other symptom that happens when you sell too many products and services is the owner becomes trapped in the business. And I want to share with you how and why that happens. When you sell too many products and services, a lot of times when businesses start, they tend to start around the skill set of the owner. And so as you continue to add adjacent products and services because you're doing a good job for a customer and they've established a relationship, and therefore say, okay, can you do this for me? Let's just say if you offer marketing services, and they say, okay, can you now do digital services? Or can you do something related to cyber, as an example? It may not be your core competency, but you either don't want to disappoint the customer, or you feel like you could use the additional marginal revenue. But when that happens, that means that the owner becomes the only one who has the enough big picture view to be able to deliver all these services and products. And then when that happens, if the customers tend to want to talk to the owner a lot, because if their demands are not being met, or if they're not happy or satisfied with the services that they're getting, they want to speak with a boss. And things always tend to then end up somehow eventually get escalated to the boss or the owner. And that means that you don't have enough time for strategic planning and less time for your family and friends and hobbies, among other things. So diminish balance in your lifestyle. And then the owner needs to be involved even in the selling of the products and services. And even when I was in the corporate world, I'll ask a vendor some questions, and they tend to need to bring the owner in because sometimes the questions are too deep, and the owner is the only one who has the breadth of and depth of understanding of the solution to be able to satisfactorily answer the questions. So when you get trapped into this cycle as an owner, a few things then happen, or some of the effects that you see whenever the owner is not available, the business tends to stagnate. The other thing is that the customers always want to talk to the boss when something goes wrong, and there's only so much of you, the owner, to go around. And then because there's only so many hours in a week that the owner can offer, that then puts a cap on the amount of revenue that the business can generate. So we want to, because of all of these symptoms, that's why we want to switch from selling a lot of things to fewer customers, because what happens is that as you extend more and more things to a customer, then you may be building the percentage of revenue that you're getting from that business, but you're exposing yourself to a lot of risk. Instead, we want you to diversify by scaling down, right, lean and mean, but be able to then sell to a lot more customers. Two books influenced my thinking on this approach. One is the Build to Sell book by John Warrillow. John Warrillow is somebody who's created this company called the Value Builder System. And he's built and sold about 4 businesses. And I like this book. As a matter of fact, I use his product. He has a product, the Value Builder System, which is a software system. We use that in our practice as well. And then the Jim Collins's famous book, Good to Great, which we used during my Carey days, business leadership and strategy days. So, and the message coming out of these books, it just had to do with building quote unquote the perfect business, right? And what are some of the key value drivers? We want to learn from businesses that have succeeded, and that's what these 2 books are about. They're data-driven, very fact-based, and both quantitative and qualitative. And in putting them together, there was one key for this particular presentation, which has to do with building a scalable business model. There's one particular concept in each of those 2 books that aligned or worked together, and they influenced my thinking around this. And it has to do for the hedgehog concept. If you've read the Jim Collins's book, he talks about the hedgehog always beating the fox, because the fox thinks they have the hedgehog cornered, and then the hedgehog always rolls over, and the spiky fins just sticking out, and then the fox has to always run away. And he talked about 3 factors. What are you passionate about? Well, what do you best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine? And if you're a nonprofit, what drives your resource engine? In this particular case, the scalable business model that I learned from John Worler's book has to do with 3 intersecting factors, right? So it's not about scaling down for the sake of scaling down, but scaling down to products and services that meet 3 specific criteria. The first is, how teachable is your product or service? And by teachable, I mean how easy it is to teach to employees, especially new employees. The more involved the owner needs to be in delivering or selling that product or service, the less teachable it is, right? So we want to make sure that we identify which of our products and services are easily teachable to employees. And then the second criteria is how valuable in the mind of the customer are the products and services. Do they care about the benefits that a product or service deliver? And also, are you differentiated from your competition when it comes to delivering this product or service? If it's commoditized, then it's not as valuable, right? Because then the customer can switch at any time. And then the final criteria for scaling down is making sure that it's repeatable. In other words, customers buy it again and again and again. These 3 have to be satisfied at the same time for whatever product or service that we scale down to. All right, so if you think about the good to great, teachable may be something that you're passionate about. Valuable in this case would be what you're in the best in the world at, and repeatable would be what drives your economic engine. So they kind of intersect in terms of ideas from those 2 books. So let's just make it practical, right? So we take, let's just say you're a small business or a medium-sized business. You have some products and services that you deliver. And so let's just take, make a list of these products and services, and let's just list them in order of decreasing sales. Or if you want to choose profit margin, that's also fine. And then we go item by item. If there's too many of them, you can just look at the highest hierarchy level that makes the most sense. And then you look at, on a scale of 0 to 10, how teachable is it? How valuable is it? How repeatable is it? And then for each product and service, you basically just simple algebra, right? You sum them up, and then you identify which product or service has the highest total and which has the lowest. And then we scale down to the products or service that have the highest total. So how does this work? Let's just use a case study example for the photography company, for instance. Let's just say they're considering 3 services in their portfolio. They do wedding photos, they do soccer, they shoot soccer, or football if you're outside of the US, and school photos. And if you apply this teachable, valuable, repeatable criteria to the products and services, you look at wedding, you say, okay, it's teachable, but there's some tricks and services that does require either the owner or the senior leadership to get a little bit involved. Therefore, we're going to give it a 7. And it's valuable, obviously, to both the bride and the groom. So you say you score it a 9. And it's not repeatable because hopefully people get married only once, right? Therefore, you give it a 0. And again, this really all depends on within the firm how they rate it, but this is just an example. And so in this particular case, it was 7 plus 9 plus 0, and the total was 16. You look at soccer, it's highly teachable, shortest kids in front, tallest in the back, but it's not as valuable, right? You can, anybody can take a picture, you can take a disposable camera and take pictures. So it's a little bit commoditized, so we just give it a 3 because, yeah, it may be important for the people that took the picture, but there isn't a whole lot of differentiation happening there. And it's repeatable every year. There's always little league soccer in this case, and therefore you give it the 9, and you add them up, you get 9 plus 3 plus 9, and you get a 21. And then you come to school photos. Every year, students graduate. Principals want people who know what you're doing. They can get them in and out fast and quickly. Parents obviously value these photos. It happens every year, therefore it's repeatable, and it's teachable. You just, again, tallest kid in the back, shoulders in the front. You just can take a bunch of steps and teach somebody to do it. So you can rate each of them a 9, and then the total then comes to 27. And you look at the ranking, the school photos had the highest total. And so the company then decided to specialize and scale down, to just doing school photos and get rid of weddings and soccer. So this example is a school photo shoot company in Danbury, the United Kingdom, in England in the United Kingdom, the school photography company. They focus specifically on school photography, and they're doing really, really well. Now, there's always some dilemma that comes into play. There are trade-offs, otherwise it wouldn't be a strategy if everything was just straightforward. Typically, what is the most valuable tends to be the least teachable, because a lot of skill set tends to go into making something that's valuable, especially if there's a lot of customization involved, which does require some ingenuity and things of that sort. So, so the question then is, how do we achieve this thing? How do we then get products and services that are teachable and valuable at the same time? Well, there are 2 options that you can look at. One is if you're lucky enough to have products that are teachable and valuable and also repeatable, then great, you focus on those. You specialize and you focus on those for growth. The other thing is, for the most part, you don't have any products and services that are both teachable and valuable. It may be one or the other. It may be teachable but not valuable, or valuable but not teachable. And so in that case, then the proposal, the scaling down approach is you take each of the individual products or services. If you're a product-based company or a service-based company, depending on what you do, then you take each of these and then you bundle them up, right? Especially if they can integrate it in a way that meets a specific need, right? Then you bundle them up, and then you brand it. So then once you brand it, you differentiate yourself and make it more valuable. It takes away a certain pain point for the customer, and then you make it subscribable, so they do it, because they become dependent on your service, your new bundle service. They become repeatable, and also by virtue of the fact that they're teachable, right? Then you already hit the teachable, the valuable, and the repeatable. So bundling of teachable services then becomes the play. So let's go through an example for an accounting practice. Right, corporate finance, we know it's not something that you can easily teach. It does require some education. you need to go to school and learn tax strategy and tax planning, among other things. So that is not as teachable. Highly valuable, CFO type activities. Technology consultant is also very valuable, but again, you do require high skill set, a lot of education and practice. Same with audits. However, if you look on the bottom right, things like payroll, recording monthly statements or reconciling monthly financial statements and bank accounts and those things, those are not really all that valuable. They are commoditized. You can get anybody to do it, but they are needed. They're just not something that you can differentiate yourself with. However, if you bundle, all of these items, the payroll, the recording of the bank accounts and the daily deposits, and the reconciliation of the monthly financial statements, then you have something, which is what this particular accounting practice did. They bundle these things up, and then they call it BOSS, which stands for back office services. And by doing that, they now have a product. They basically productize the service, right? And then they just, you just give it a menu. Okay, this is how much it costs. It's like going to a restaurant with a menu and the price, and you already know what you're getting. So let's just say the boss, and you just say it costs $100. Then in these $100, you get this, and that, right? Or you can bundle it and even like upsell. You can just say, okay, the first entry level is just payroll, and the second level you get the 3 bullet items, and the next level you get all 4, something to that effect, right? So which is what this particular firm, Root Advisors, they did. They created 3 different levels. The first one is like an entry level where you just, you get like payroll, you get like recording of things, and then the second level is payroll. So the higher each upsell, then costs more and more money, right? But you get more back. So that is one way of, you've simplified your model, but at the same time they're growing because they have they basically, businesses and customers then outsource their back office accounting needs to them, right? So they can then, business can focus on their core competencies. So that's one way that Root Advisors, for instance, scale down and then to scale up by growing and increasing the predictability of their revenue. Now, I've talked about this. What are some of the benefits that you get? I think I've sprinkled some of these benefits in the course of the conversations, and I may be repeating some of them. I wanted to make sure they were highlighted. You get productive employees because they know what to expect, what is expected of them. Because you have your items simplified and they're teachable, and you can document them. New employees can be onboarded real quick. They know what to get, what to do, and what's expected of them. The documentation is just in time, so there's not as much dependency on key employees and the owner, right? And because regardless of which employee is delivering the service, they're following the same playbook. You get consistent experience for the customers, which make them delighted, which then makes them more likely to recommend your business to people that they know. And then that then also is a good predictor of the growth of your business. Also, by simplifying the amount of products and services that you deliver, you then have to deal with fewer suppliers. And then as you know, when I mentioned earlier about 36% of business owners being concerned about supply chain disruptions, that is one way for you to combat that, right? You still need to diversify, but you want to diversify among fewer suppliers versus if you're selling too many products and services, then obviously, you're dealing with a lot of suppliers. And if you have to diversify among those suppliers, then, there's more complications. Again, the owner doesn't have to be as involved because things are documented and systematized, and then that means the owner has more life outside of the business. And then that means that the business is valued highly because it's less risk, more predictable cash flow, higher customer satisfaction. So that takes the owner, but if there's no reduction in owner dependency, then that gets you out of the owner's trap that we mentioned earlier. And so you start with offering one product or service or fewer products or service that meet the teachable, valuable, and repeatable criteria, which means other employees beside the owner can deliver it. Customers don't need to talk to the owner because their issues are getting resolved on a one-time basis, and the owner is not involved in selling. They can, the owner can delegate while they focus on things that deliver long-term value, like branding or like putting together sales processes, among other things. So again, instead of business being slowed down when the owner is not there, business continues unabated. The customers don't need to talk to the owner when something goes wrong because employees are able to resolve issues quickly. And then there is no limit on the revenue because it's not dependent on owner's bandwidth or availability. If we look at the good to great model where it talks about building momentum before you take off, the good to great model talks about disciplined people executing or engaging in disciplined thought to execute disciplined action. If you have an owner that is disciplined with his or her leadership team, that bring on employees who follow these documented processes for products or services that meet the teachable, valuable, and repeatable criteria, then you set yourself up for the breakthrough growth that minimizes risk while at the same time increasing your cash flow. So that's why we're saying simplify, scale down to scale up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time and your talent. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.